Hello everyone, welcome back for the second video tutorial. So for this video, now we are going to continue our discussion on using the Python to handle assignment for multiple item we call list. Okay, so previously in order to store the data, you can just simply come up with the variable equal to something like 10. Okay, and then you can print out the value as well. So that is how we do it. Imagine you want to have like multiple items. You might say that I can stay with like x equal to x1 equal to 10, x2 equal to 20, x3 equal to 40, and x4 equal to let's say 100. But as you can see, it requires a lot of statement like this to define multiple items. Okay, so therefore, instead of doing it this way, we have a better ways to handle this together. Okay, as a single statement, we call list. Okay, so in Python, same thing. If you want to define the variable for storing a list, you can just come up with the name first. So let me call like list number one equal to, and then in order to specify multiple items assignment, then we put square brackets. See, whenever you want to make the function call in Python, you refer to the name of the command first, followed by the parentheses like this, and take the input. Now for a list, okay, in order to define multiple items, we say equal to, and then we put the bracket. The bracket is used to hold multiple items. All right, so therefore over here, we're gonna say that the first item is gonna be 1, the second item is gonna be 10, the next item is gonna be 100, for example. Now if you do it this way and trying to enter this, and it's gonna say invalid syntax, because whenever you want to define multiple items, make sure that each time you want to separate each item with the comma here. So that's the must in Python. So therefore, after you have already defined this list consists of 3 different things, okay, and it's give you list 1. So imagine that this list is given by someone, and you want to know, because you are not the one who define it, and you want to know the size of this. As you can see, if you define it yourself, you know there's going to be 3 of them. But imagine that if you got the data from the internet and you need to convert it into a list, and you want to examine the contents by looking at first information about like the size of this. Therefore, in Python, you can always put print. Okay, so if you refer to list1.range like this is not JavaScript, so therefore this is not possible. What about if I say length of list1? As you can see, there is another function for you to use. You can take list1 as the input, and then this function will examine how many items there are in the list. Okay, so please be careful about this, because if you study JavaScript before, you know that JavaScript, then you can just refer to the name of variable and using the accessing operator with the information name length to get how many items there are in the list. But now in Python, we use the function call to get the size of your list. So that's the first thing you can learn from your list. Now what if I would like to also check what is the first elements inside my list? So therefore, you might think about using list1 again. Okay, and then, okay, let's print list1 again one more time. But if you print this one, it's going to print out the whole list for you. But what if you want to print out just the first elements? So therefore, you go to the previous command, but then in order to reference or index to the first element. Now when you define this one, as you can see, we use the square bracket, right? For referencing, we use the square bracket as well. So let me put this right here. Okay, we use the square brackets, and we say that we want to move on to the first element here. In Python, is the indexing started with the value equal to 0. So the first position will be 0. Second position is number 1. The next position, which is second position, is going to be the number 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So therefore, if you want to reference to the first position, you put 0 right here. Okay, so you got the first element. If you want to reference to the second elements, then you put number 1. If you want to reference to the last element, which is the third element, you put 2 right here. Easy as that. Now, what if I would like to reference to the last elements, but I do not know exact position? Let's say that there are like maybe like millions or 10,000 something, but I could not see because it's really long and I cannot count whether or not this is number 2, number 3, number 4 position. So therefore in Python they also give you ability to just say that, hey, I want to reference to the last position. You put -1, and as you can see it gives you the same output. Okay, so -1 means I want the last position. Okay, all right. And you can think about this, hey, if this is the case, can I use -2 to reference to the second last position here? Then let's try again and do this. So if you want to do like the second last position, you use -2, so on. Okay, so this is how you handle the data referencing from a list. Again, one more time, that list was created for number. What about if I want to create a list to support um, the text items? Then this is possible as well. So let's say that we have list number 2 equal to, again, square brackets, and we're gonna say that orange, milk, and then bread, for example. In this case, as you can see, we have defined a list to contain 3 different items. Each item belongs to the text type. So same thing, if you want to print out the first items, then we say list 2, okay, and then 0. Now you might wonder that why did I put the space right here? I just don't want to confuse you that, okay, whenever we have many brackets together it might be confusing. So that is why I just put some space so that you can see that, oh, that parenthesis belong to the function called print, and that square bracket is belong to data referencing. Okay, all right, same thing, you can use the -1 to reference to the last element. Okay, now is it possible to reference to maybe like 2 elements at the same time? For example, I want 0 and 1, okay, like this, and I go for 0 and 2. As you can see, what happened? It means that it allows you in Python by using this slicing techniques. Okay, so you're gonna have 2 different values now. The first value indicate the first position of your elements. The second information here locate how many elements you like to be able to be included inside your output. So therefore over here, when you say 0 means let's go ahead and take the first position. And then over here they say just take the one item only. So therefore they go and take this one for us. Now if you want to take maybe like from here to here, so therefore can you guess? So the first number is going to be starting with the second position. So let's put 1 first. And now if Ajaran put 1 again one more time, you can see that it's gonna be 0. So in this case, it means that over here, if you say 2, it's gonna give you the mu. So therefore, in colon here, it is used to reference. Okay, a little bit different from here. But what you need to understand is that this is what we call inclusive indexing scheme. Okay, let me show you one more time list 2 so that you know what I mean. Now when you're trying to put 1, 3 and it gives you this guy and this guy, that's because this is what happened. Whenever you're using this slicing scheme, here this is the rule of thumb. This first element here denote the first position. So as you can see now, this is starting from 0, right? So this is 1, so therefore this number reference to the second position. So that's why the first element is milk. And this number telling you that, okay, now starting from the first one, I want to stop just like for this guy. So therefore, you can see that, Ajahn, how many elements you are talking about? You can simply just subtract this number by this number. That's going to be 2. So that's why you got 2 different elements. Okay, all right. So in the future, okay, how about if I define the list one more time so that you can see what I mean here. So we're going to have something like papers, and then we can have like grasses. So now as you can see, we have 5 different elements. Now if I print out again 1 to 3, we got this one. If I say 1 to 4, as you can see what happened. It starts up with the second element, which is number 1. See? We know that the first element is going to start with 0. So that's why 1 represents the second position. And the reason they print out 3 elements is because 4 subtracted by 1 is equal to 3. So they give us 3 value. Now if you want to try, let's say that you want to go for this one. Okay, so we're gonna go with what? We're gonna go with number 2 in this case, and therefore you're gonna get bread and paper because 4 divided subtracted by 2 is equal to 2. So you got 2 elements starting from this element. See, you got 4 minus 2 elements starting from this element. Now if you want to include this guy as well, so therefore you need how many? So if you need 3 of this, so of course that's going to be value of 5 subtracted by 2, you got 3, and it's going to start up with the third element, which is 2, so therefore that's the output. Okay, if you feel confusing about this data referencing scheme, that's still okay. Whenever you use it in the future, then you're gonna understand what it is. Okay, this is called explicit. Okay, inclusive referencing. Inclusive. I'm sorry. This is called exclusive. All right, exclusive. Okay, now let's move on to once you know the list of a simple data, then we're gonna have a list of, instead of number or just text, then we're gonna have a list of some entity. So speaking of entity, then this is what you need to learn. So over here in Python as well, let's say that now you have the business entity to describe, and you call them maybe like student. And you know that for student, we have like the student ID, student major, and student GPA, for example. This is what we call business entity. And this is what we call information of the student or feature of the student. So let me summarize. So normally we call them like column, feature, information, variable, attribute, data field, okay, data column. So as you can see, they share the same thing together. It's the same terminology. Whenever you refer to characteristic of the student, we describe it as, in data science we call feature. Okay, in business we call informations. In statistics we call variable. In computer we call variable as well. In database we call attributes, data fields, or data column. All right. So here, let's say that you want to support this in Python, you would have to do this one by one. So you learn that, oh, we have something like student one, let me call S1 underscore ID equal to maybe like 1. Okay, S1 major equal to MIS, and S1 GPA equal to 3. But what if I need another student? Then you're gonna need to have another things like this, but mean that you have like already 6 different variable. Okay, so that's gonna be number 2. This is, for example, 3.5. So that's two students with 6 different variable. Therefore, in order to support the new type of this, it's not going to be merely just like a number or text, but we're talking about an entity. So therefore, in Python, we introduce what we call dictionary. So over here, that new data type will look like this. So we're going to have something like S1 equal to, and to represent like the entity in Python, we use just like this. Okay, so it's going to be brackets, and inside these brackets, then we are going to separate this into, let's say that you have ID, you have major, and you also have GPA. Now if you do it this way, it's going to give you invalid syntax, of course. So therefore what we need is, we are going to separate this into 3 different information first, but it's gonna say it's not defined, of course, because in dictionary, okay, we need a key pair, meaning over here we have to have one pair for this. This is called key value. Sorry, this is called a key, this is called a value. That's why we call a pair. Okay, so we always have the key and the value, the key and the value. So therefore over here, then that means we're gonna need to do the same thing. So we're gonna have to have the key equal to the value, which is like 1, major equal to MIS, and again this data is text, so let me put double quote as well, and the GPA equal to, okay, 3, for example. This is number. But if you do it this way, again you're gonna get syntax error, because in Python way, you cannot use equal sign right here. You need to use colon. So let's change from replace that equal sign with the colon. Okay. All right, enter this. Again, they say measure is not defined. That's because in Python as well, when you want to develop the key pair value for each pair, we have the key, we have the value, and for each key, make sure that you also enclose each name with double quotes, so that's the must. So over here, if I put this, if I put the double quote for each information name or feature, then it's going to be okay. And you can print out that S1 and you can see that it's print out nicely. So that means in this case, instead of using double quote, can I use single quote, Ajahn? So let's try. So over here, if I just use single quote, okay, and then over here single quote as well. But since we use single quote, right? So we better be consistent for the text value. We use single quotes as well. All right, so that means in Python you can perfectly, okay, either use double quote or single quote, okay, to represent the same thing. So over here, when you print out S1, as you can see, that this is how you reference a single row of the data. So in business world as well, if you represent this data in Excel, you would have the major column like major GPA. This is called the header rows, and then you have one, you have MIS, you have three, you also have another one for this MIS, and then 3.5. So in the Excel here, we know that this is like one worksheet when you have the header rows, and we have also three data rows. Okay, we have four different columns. I'm sorry, three different columns, and we have six different data. Why six? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 data, and three different data for each student. So same thing over here. Okay, same thing over here. You can just imagine that each dictionary here now is used to represent one row, so record of the data. It has the ID, it has the measure, and it has the GPA. And for each information, okay, you can assign the value of the data by using colon and the data itself. So keep in mind that whenever you want to define this pair, it's going to be the name of information and the data. Separate each pair by comma. Okay, so this is used also the single quote to denote the name of your feature or information. So without this single quote, as I showed you earlier, that you're going to get the error. Okay, all right, so you can do the same thing. So now you can have like S number 2. Is number 2, and then we have ID number 2 as well. And let's change this measure a little bit, so we have like ACT and GPA, like let's say 3.5 to make it look a little bit different. So you got S1 and S2. Now if you want to organize them together into the same place, so we have like list number, what about if I call it students equal to. Now if you want to define multiple things together for student, you have to use square brackets, right? And you can now take S1 as the first item reference, take S2 as the first item reference, and then you put it like that. And when you print out the students, it's going to give you the whole idea of what it looks like for your list. So as you can see, they say the first item is going to be now like a dictionary. So now if you refer to the first elements here, you can see that you get the first student. If you go to the last students, you can use like -1, and that's going to give you this output. Now the question would be, what if I would like to reference to the first student and look at their GPA, Ajahn? So therefore you can always use print students and look at the first student. So that is why you have this one. But if you do it this way, it's going to print out the whole information, right? So we just need to look up the GPA. So therefore, Ajahn, how about if I just use another square brackets to denote the GPA? Is it possible? The answer is yes. And you might say, Ajahn, in Python, I'm sorry, in JavaScript, you can use just reference to the GPA. Then this is impossible. You cannot use the dot operator like this unless you turn your Python script into object-oriented role. Now it's just a dictionary, so therefore, in order to reference to the information for each element, you have to use the square brackets. And also, without that single quote as well, it's going to give you not a good one. So always refer to the names of information with the single quote or double quote, and you're going to get the output. Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty much having what I like to see for the second video tutorial. So we have covered the ways that we can support multiple items. You learn also how do you reference to different items, okay, from your list. And it doesn't matter, it's going to be the list of number, the text, or the list of like entity like this. Then you have always the ways to reference to each object. And also, if you want to reference to particular information for each items, then therefore you can use also another square brackets as well. Okay, all right. Now, until then, so next time we are going to talk about once you have a list, you want to do something we call looping. We want to do the loop, use the looping so that we can perform some printout for the whole series of the data. Okay, I'll see you there. Thank you.